I moved away from Washington, D.C., and I was no longer attached to that city and, the idea that I might re-enter, nonprofits and politics, activism, that sort of thing. Because I was laid off, I had a chance to think what do I want to do now? I wanted to continue to invest in startups and work for startups. So I moved to Austin. One, because I was moving back to Texas, but of course, Austin is a completely different experience than my hometown of Amarillo or where I went to school outside of Dallas. And I did get a job at a startup, and I worked there for a couple of years. And this was a truly formative experience and something that shined a lot of light on mainly what I don't like in my professional life, right? It was a real exposure to office culture, and one that I thought was not necessarily unique to the company I was working for, but was just sort of the immutable condition of office life, of working in an office. And I found it intolerable and could not see myself doing that 9 to 5 grind for the rest of my existence. And so these realities of office culture really started to set in. And what I mean by that is experiencing moments where rules were more important than providing value or results, where being physically present in an office was important at all. Having needless meetings to feel like we're doing something, and just being so profoundly bored. To the point that I remember looking out the window. Thankfully, I had a window in my office, and watching the birds and being envious of the birds. Wishing that I could be outside feeling the sun and have that, at least some level of autonomy. Along those lines of autonomy, the soft power that's exercised in office life is something that I found also intolerable. And the politics that go into it. I was rushing to work one day, and it was customary for me to stop and get a breakfast burrito. And so I went, got in line. It was a drive-through, and that day the line was a little bit long. And so I knew I was going to be a little bit late. No big deal, right? So, I'm working a white-collar job. It's not like I have meetings or somebody waiting on me at the office. And so I get my food, and I rush to the office. I peel into the parking lot about 9:05. And I walk in to the office, grab a cup of coffee, and sort of discreetly move into my office, hoping that nobody noticed. And I open up my laptop and I look in the top corner to see what time it is, and it's 9:06. Great, no problem. 6 minutes late. It's not really an issue. It was that day that I had my regularly scheduled one-on-one with my manager. And 10:30 rolled around and it was time to meet. And the first item on the agenda, it turns out, was to discuss that he noticed that I was late 6 minutes that morning. And I was sort of in disbelief. I thought he was joking. I go, oh, I was only 6 minutes late, no problem, right? And it was a problem. So I was stunned that this was an issue. This moment might seem inconsequential to a lot of people, but it was deeply distressing to me that I, because I was late that day, he was suggesting that I was adversely impacting the office culture and encouraging other people to be late and sloppy, when in fact I care deeply about the quality of my work and producing desirable outcomes, which to me is the only thing that matters in a company that's concerned about its bottom line.
Right.
So that was a formative moment. And it was at that moment that I told myself that I would not suffer those indignities any longer. And I started planning to, very dramatically, to leave the country, but for a number of reasons, so that I could retrain myself. And I had seen in traveling and going on long vacations that travel was easy. That it was eminently possible to live this way because I had seen other digital nomads. I had met other nomads. And I needed to keep my cost of living low enough for long enough such that I would have time to retrain myself in a more lucrative skill set that could be done, in a way that where I controlled my destiny and my day-to-day, life, basically.